All right, so this is our next topic. Why Resident Evil 4 is not my favorite Resident Evil game, but why it's one of the best games ever made. Kind of want to sit in this fine line that there's a lot of arguments about best Resident Evil game, and
Sorry, I kind of jumped topics there. I went into that a little bit.
yeah, that's all good. So the thing about Resident Evil 4, it influenced the whole evolution of the over-the-shoulder top camera.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
think about all the games that use it today. I could even list. I mean, we could go on forever, but Dead Space. You can even say Uncharted,
Yeah.
Gears of War.
I mean,
But
almost any over-the-shoulder third-person shooter from that point on. I mean, it really kind of started that to the side,
yeah.
look.
Yep. Because
It
that's the thing.
changed a lot of things.
So whenever that came out, the reason why it was a big deal, you have to realize, because when we played the original Resident Evils, it was like up, down is up, and it was you know really bad controls by today's standards.
Yeah.
Think about when Resident Evil 4 came out. The aiming was precise. The way your guy moved, everything looked amazing. That's why it was such a big deal, and it made everything amazing today. So to my point is, while it's not my favorite Resident Evil because I love the story of 1 and 2 more, and I'm gonna get your takes on this too, guys. But with Resident Evil 2 and 1 and 2, I should say specifically, I can go into 3 as well. But I love the idea that you came into this experience with one gun and you're like trying to find weapons and you're on the run. And I loved that. Where on 4, when it was like this merchant, they're like, oh, you're just this random merchant that I'm gonna buy from. Well, some people may like that. To me, it took away.
I agree.
But here's the thing. Then 4, they added in the remake of 2 that whole over-the-shoulder aspect, and look how much better that made 2.
Yeah.
So this is my point of why I think 4 is one of the best games ever made, but not my favorite. Just your take.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I just think it was a little departure bit on the story of Resident Evil, just slightly, and the atmosphere. And so...
Kind of crazy villagers.
Yeah. Which we've seen work for Resident Evil as well.
Yep.
Like 8 I thought was great and has a lot of similarities to 4.
Yep.
I was never a big fan of the merchant because again, like you said, it kind of just doesn't make sense. It's like, you're in this crazy place and everyone's psychotic and trying to kill you, but this merchant's okay.
We have a YouTube short that might be coming out.
We're gonna let him sit here and no one's gonna touch him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So I felt that same way about Metal Gear Solid 4 when they brought in, I think it's Drebin, the merchant. It was like, why? How come he can just drive around and do whatever he wants? Like it.
Yeah. Now they're bringing in some guy named Perry with a knife.
Yeah.
I know.
Guys, come on now.
Hey, why do you have knives?
But no, for what it did for third-person shooters, I think
Changed the whole.
it really did. And,
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people put it as their favorite Resident Evil game. And like you said, well, you don't, I don't know how Victor feels about it.
Let me just say this thing: are we calling it the wrong thing then? Right? Are we calling it like? Is it a like injustice to call it a great game, or just say great things came from that game? You know what I mean? Because it's like the reality is anybody that's played the majority. I wouldn't say anybody, but I just feel like what makes a great game is a great story and great experience and all these things. And it's like we're taking the wonderful aspects from it, and it so that's great in itself that it altered that style leading forward. But like, does that make it a great game?
That's what's hard. Here, I'll say this. So many of us, and it's something we all should work on daily, is we're all very biased and prideful people, and we hate change.
Yep.
And it's something that's so hard for people to work on. And it's like, I will make that argument that some people, it was a departure to where it's like, oh, this isn't Resident Evil. But I think if you just take Resident Evil 4
But there's also people that it was their first one.
No, that's
So
fair.
they're like...
No, exactly, and I guarantee you people that's one of their favorites.
Yep.
But this is my point though. If we as the original players take a look of it from the outside and just play it as a game and not think of the other ones,
Yeah.
it's an amazing game. That's what's hard.
Okay, touche.
Yeah.
And we're not saying it has like a bad story or anything. It just it was just a little bit of a departure from
For sure.
from the first ones.
Right.
That's the thing. Amazing gameplay, but 1 and 2, especially 2 now. The 2 remake is my favorite one now because of how well
mine
it
too.
was done.
I agree.
Even though I like the 1 story better, but they're amazing. But anyways, so now we're gonna dive into this where.